This is We Bleed Orange and Black, the podcast for Halloween and horror lovers. Join us as we talk with creators, discuss our favorite horrors, and share original spooky stories. I'm Jeff C. Carter, and I'm repping the 80s.
I'm Ryan Gerasi, and
I'm thinking of a tagline.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you look quickly, you'll see the unmistakable signs of maritime mayhem splashing and slashing off the starboard bout. In this corner, defeating dampness with love's sweet chemistry, are you afraid of the dark? And the challenger, troubling and bubbling, Friday the 13th, the series. Don your water wings and dive right in to put up your spoons.
this week's theme,
Dead Man's Float.
well, it's finally time.
We're finally doing it. The infamous episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Dead Man's Float.
You must be super psyched because Frank has moved away.
Quote unquote moved away. I think
Buried
we
in
mentioned
the
this on a
woods.
previous episode, but Frank is buried in the woods, 100%.
I had completely forgotten that this was the first Stig story, which is funny because it's one of the, as you say, these days, I don't know how it was upon first broadcast, but these days, one of the most beloved and well-remembered of the Are You Afraid of the Darks, probably just because of that thumbnail of the pool ghost.
Yeah, but the fact that Stig brought this story as his opening attempt to get into the Midnight Society, and it was ultimately unsuccessful.
Rejected.
Wild.
Yeah.
You know Stig has got to smell.
Well, he does, and they're constantly telling him how much he smells and how much he sucks and how much they hate him. What a filthy suck he is.
Stig is a filthy suck. Even Kiki, having just witnessed Frank's brutal murder and backwoods burial, can't stop herself from ducking on Stig.
Well, he does try to wipe off a log with Sam's sweater, so... It's 1954, and little Jay Baruchel is splashing around in a pool while his sister makes out with Charlie the lifeguard. Pulling a little bit of a Friday the 13th here.
Yeah, we've definitely seen this before. We know how this goes.
Little Jay Baruchel pulling a Jason Voorhees. I don't know what his character's name is. He smells something stinky, and as we'll find out, the Pong is mightier than the Jay Baruchel. He gets sucked under. He's drowning. He's thrashing. He's screaming for Charlie. But, I mean, that's the last thing we see is Charlie jumping into the pool with a life ring. Jumping in like jackknife style. Not even diving in lifeguard style.
The setup is that because the lifeguard is making out with his girlfriend in another room, wildly irresponsible. But it didn't matter if the lifeguard had been right there, like ready to grab the kid at a moment's notice from the poolside, because young Jay Baruchel was dragged down by something in the water. It wasn't like a simple drown.
Although, you know, it was 1954, and so if, like, random kids wanted to go to the swimming hole by themselves, they fucking did. Like, it's not even really that irresponsible in the context of the time to let a kid swim by himself.
No, it's just more a liability issue.
Yeah, well, that's
if you
true.
have a public pool.
If you have a
the
literal
kids are in.
lifeguard. Cut to present day, aka 1990X. And Zeke, the school nerd, smartest kid in school, still manages to explode his volcano in his demonstration to chemistry class by messing up the ratio of manganite to water.
The reaction is always the same. Kaboom.
One of the girls in the class, Greta, thinks he's very cute, like a puppy. Clarice thinks he's a geek. Like a puppy you drown in the river or something? I forget what she says.
More like a puppy you have to clean up after.
Did you recognize Greta?
Oh shit, she's Lori from Big Wolf on Campus, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's great. Charlie, the broken janitor, comes in to clean up Zeke's mess. And if you heard Jay Baruchel scream for Charlie, you know where this is leading. So, Zeke flags down Clarice as she's leaving the class because he wants to show her his secret. Something that will interest her as a member of the swim team.
Just tell me what it is.
Well, that's no fun.
So they meet up at 7:30 a.m. the next morning, which makes me want to cry and vomit.
Student athletes on the swim team probably got there at like 4 a.m.
Well, yeah, I mean, I used to wake up at 5:30 just to go to regular school, and I wasn't even an athlete, so it's just PTSD on my part.
And their pool was an hour away.
No sleep till Brook Pool. So Zeke's like, oh, I forgot, this is the boys' change room, Canada change room.
And Clarice is like, I've seen this already. It's like, damn, Clarice.
Zeke has found a chamber of secrets leading to a giant swimming pool under the school. And as they're exploring this cavernous space full of junk, you get a nice heaping helping of the Are You Afraid of the Dark oboe or bassoon. There's still water in the pool, which I never really thought about, but it must be so fucking gross under there. I imagine they're gonna have to do a lot of work on this pool, but it just cuts to a beautiful, pristine pool. So we didn't see any of the millions of taxpayer dollars it costs to renovate this pool.
At this point, Clarice has totally stonewalled Zeke, the geek. And I was really impressed with her because she's an athlete. She's not like, oh, a boy is showing interest. I have to, like, entertain this. Or I have to go along with it because I don't want to be mean. Like, she sets very firm boundaries with him. And when she finds out that there is a swimming pool at the school, she's like, I'm not going to stop until the administration opens this pool so I don't have to waste an hour each way in the morning going to swim team practice. So she's like a really take charge, kick-ass character.
Her excellent characterization is dictated heavily by the plot and the needs of the story, which is good.
It is.
So they reopen the pool. Greta and Clarice are in there. They smell rotten eggs as something jawses up towards their legs. But they get out. Nothing happens. Clarice later gets a terrible grade in chemistry, and she will be kicked off the swim team unless she can bring that grade up. So as she is a go-getter and a no-nonsense kid, she takes Zeke's proffered deal for chemistry tutoring in exchange for swimming lessons. So we never see the chemistry tutoring, but it's really irrelevant to the story.
First of all, I'm sure you were hoping there would be a montage with Semi and Angel.
Yes, as they just pored over chemistry textbooks.
If you mix manganite with water, the reaction is always the same.
Secondly, you said earlier that Clarice's character was determined by the plot, but everything in this just falls into place like a lock and tumbler. This is such a well-constructed story with Zeke and his wants and his fears, Clarice, what she needs. There's finally a bit of leverage that Zeke has because he has the chemistry know-how. She needs to get her grades up to stay on the swim team.
He has the know-how, and she has the show-how.
And what she immediately says is, what's in it for you? She's very canny. She's not like, oh, shucks, I gotta do this.
Yeah, well, Stig is a master storyteller.
The kid's got it.
So they sneak into the pool after hours. He's like, what if we get caught? And she's like, we're not doing anything wrong, even though she stole the key, and they're sneaking in after hours.
Trespassing on school grounds after hours. But also, when Zeke heard they weren't going to do anything wrong, he was like, oh,
God damn it. So Zeke is very, very scared of the water. She takes him out in an inflatable rowboat so that he doesn't actually have to get in the water. And he tells her the story of almost drowning in a pond as a kid. And all this time, Clarice is like dangling her fingers in the water. Stig just ratcheting up the suspense. He says like, ever since then, I've always thought there was something down there that was just waiting to get me. So Clarice jumps in to prove there's nothing down there, but she gets sucked under. And it's very scary, but it turns out it's just Greta playing a prank. And it's a hell of a prank because she must have been holding her breath under that water for hours and like avoiding the pool ghost the whole time.
Yeah, when
because
you find out
they don't hear her get into the pool or come into the room. They don't see her swimming over underneath the raft.
They don't know she's there. Greta's avoiding the pool ghost this whole time. Maybe she like found a pocket of some noxious gases bubbling up.
She's
from
just been breathing, under in the one little air bubble under their raft. Anyway, Greta is pissed.
Or was she inside the raft somehow? Like Cape Fear style, clinging to the bottom.
She definitely, I mean, that's the only explanation, really.
Like a diving spider, she had a pocket of air around her head.
She gets out and she's pissed because she liked Zeke even before she knew about his horrible childhood trauma and his baggage. And because...
I thought you didn't like puppies.
He's helping me with chemistry.
Yeah, right.
What was that about puppies?
Nothing.
This is where she gets actually tender. She puts her hand on his hand.
So up until now, Clarice has been shown as a really hard-nosed character who is driving a bargain, and this is quid pro quo. I'm sure she doesn't want to be there in a swimsuit with some stinky nerd that she doesn't like. She's there to get her grades up. But when he starts to open up about how scared he is, she is very patiently explaining that there's nothing to be afraid of. And when he finally reveals his earlier trauma about almost dying in the water, she's very sensitive to it. You know, she's not like a one-sided character.
And she's like, there's nothing down there. It's okay. And she puts his hand in the water, and they immediately smell eggs or acid. Zeke says it's acid, and he gets pulled under. But Greta's long gone. So he scurries back up into the boat. Scurries? Can you scurry out of the water? He scrambles back up into the boat.
Scrambled, yeah.
And he's like, something pulled me down. They try to paddle, but something grabs their fingers, so they're just stuck in the middle of the pool. Stig firing on all cylinders. And they're like, well, we'll just wait here. It's all good, and somebody will find us. And then something tips their boat all the way, dumps them in the pool. But Charlie's there. He's kept a vigil all these years. He rescues them with a big stick, gives them some nice hot cocoa and blankets, and tells them the story of when he was the lifeguard and let his girlfriend's little brother drown.
They built the pool. They had to get rid of an old cemetery and move the bodies. Nearest I can figure is they missed one.
And I was thinking to myself, it's weird that they closed down the entire pool after just little Jay Baruchel drowned, but Stig's on it. He says, they ignored me until 3 more people drowned.
3 more kids, I think.
I think he just says people, but it's presumed they're kids because it's a school pool.
Yeah.
So they closed the pool, sealed it up, and Zeke, being a chemistry nerd, knows how they can reveal this ghost because this chemical, methyl orange, reacts with acid that he believes is making up the chemical composition of this pool ghost because of its smell. So they go to get some methyl orange, and Clarice, just as an aside, grabs a big tub of manganite because she was paying attention to Zeke's volcano presentation, learning chemistry.
Stig, you mad lad, you've done it. You've snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.
Jaws.
This is airtight script.
Zeke drops some methyl orange into the pool. It spreads out, and suddenly a ghost coalesces and spooks them hard, bursting forth from the water. Oh, and of course the ghost is this incredibly decrepit, rotten, matted hair, skeleton, skull face, bright red because of the methyl orange.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the grossest, most shocking things to ever appear on the show, and way over the line for a kid show.
I mean, I was fine with it. I'm sure it spooked me, but the weird thing is that it's a drowned ghost very clearly, but it wasn't necessarily the ghost of a drowning victim, simply a ghost whose body was left behind when they built the pool.
Well, it's waterlogged, but it's also just a ghost-shaped mass of water mixed with chemicals?
Yeah, so Zeke tries to womp it with a pool skimmer, but it's made of water, so it just passes right through. Charlie goes into full-on shock, twitching and lurching on the ground.
He gets gorked.
And now that the ghost can't hide anymore, it comes out of the pool and glurbles up through the drain in the change room.
Blob style.
And spooks them again. They run out. Clarice doesn't want to leave Charlie behind, but they don't really have a choice.
Heart of a hero, that girl.
Yeah, she takes the manganite, but Zeke knocks it out of her hands because they're wet and she'll get burned. Straight into the pool. She dives into the pool, but this awesome slime mold glorps its way past Zeke and into the pool. I love what they did. I don't know what they built it out of.
Yeah, really cool slime effects, great practical effects. And Stig really had me on the edge of my seat because Clarice is diving into the pool to get this huge container of chemicals that will combust as soon as it reacts with water, and I was like, oh god, this is tense.
Zeke actually jumps in to save her. So the ghost comes after him because it knows he's an easier target, I guess. Clarice gets out of the pool and slowly gets some big rubber gloves on. Charlie has come out of his shock, miraculously, drags Zeke out of the pool. Clarice steps in front of them and says,
You're red cat!
and throws the manganite on the ghost, who is totally kaboomed. My apologies to the restless, disturbed spirit. And they never see the ghost again. From then on, Zeke and Clarice get down. They're at the pool. They're cuddling up in the raft on the edge. She's like curled up in his arm. It's wonderful. It's Zeke's finest dream come true.
Greta is clinging to the underside of the pool like a spider with her head in a bubble of air.
And then Zeke does something that maybe only a geek named Zeke would do. He says, you want to go for a swim? And she's like, sure. And then she gets out of the boat, and he goes back to reading his book because he still doesn't really like the water. He kicks her out of bed like every boy's dream, so he can go back to reading his fucking science book.
But that has the great structure of that gag where you're like, would you like some coffee? Sure. All right, go ahead and make 2 cups.
Hey, get me some. I'll be right back. So yeah, then we cut back out to the Midnight Society where they totally reject Stig's story, the goat story, and tell him he sucks. And but, agree to give him another chance. After a few meetings, they're like, you really got to shore up your storytelling ability, so come to a couple meetings, learn from the masters, listen to some hungry hounds, and then maybe you'll be worthy.
While they were all huddled up, Mean Girls style, trying to figure out if they should reject him or bury him in the woods, Stig executed his long game, which was to get his hands on their sack of magic dust, and then he was just narfing it down. He was snorting it, rubbing it on his gums.
It's possible they rejected him because he tasted the fire dust.
I thought this was probably the best constructed story we've ever reviewed for the show. It was really tight.
Tell me that wasn't the best.
My episode is Friday the 13th, the series, Jack in the Box. A drunk bunch of hooligans are horsing around in the pool, and the young female lifeguard tries to kick them out.
Hey, there's no jumping in this pool! You're out of here!
Okay. You're in here.
But they pull her in and laugh. A cowardly janitor looks on, but as he's a coward and doesn't get paid for that sort of thing, he is of no help.
Also drunk.
She calls in the head lifeguard, Brock Garrett.
What do you think you're doing?
Well, we're just playing water polo, and my friend here drowned my horse.
Okay, come on out.
He orders the drunks to get out and does a little kung fu on the lead bully and bounces him. With that sorted, he can go home to celebrate his daughter Megan's birthday. Or so he thinks. The bullies come back.
I'm gonna fix his clock.
This time, the lead bully defeats Brock's empty hand style with a staff. He knocks Brock out and dumps him in the pool.
Yeah, he didn't even have a chance. I was kind of disappointed because I was like, man, Brock Danger could totally whomp this dude again, but he gets distracted by the janitor.
The cowardly janitor calls out, distracts him.
And he gets lightly tapped with a pool skimmer and dies.
Oh no, lead bully drills him in the solar plexus and then lays the staff crescent moon style across his temple. I mean, it is a Shogun Assassin style takeout. So the cowardly janitor threatens to call the cops and gets powerbombed through a table for his efforts.
And knocked out cold. I mean, I guess he was already halfway there, but
yeah, I mean, he was lost in the sauce before it began. But he had been chastised by the younger lifeguard for not sticking up for her, for not helping out. Just then, Brock's daughter shows up, finds her father doing the dead man's float, and screams. It only gets more unfortunate from there. Over at Curious Goods, the cursed antique store, we see the ravishing redhead Mickey looking at photos of her family friends, the Garretts. She is grieving Brock's tragic murder. Her co-workers, white-bearded occult scholar Jack, and replacement man of action, Johnny Ventura, naturally suspect this is the result of a cursed antique. They are 100% wrong. This was a random-ass act of malice. But then Megan opens her birthday gift. Turns out that the last thing her father ever did was buy her a cursed antique Jack-in-the-Box.
Yeah, a terrifying, crusty, disgusting Jack-in-the-Box from a going out of business maritime museum.
Yeah, he knew how to pick them. So this cursed antique Jack-in-the-Box was called the Drowned Sailor. The outside of the box is lovingly illustrated with scenes of shipwrecks, and when the handle is turned, it tinkles out the sea shanty, "What do you do with a drunken sailor?"
Daddy, I miss you.
That night, Megan's mom drinks herself to sleep, so Megan rides to the swim center. The cowardly janitor is there, trying to drink away his own troubles, but Megan screams at him for being too drunk to save her father. She turns the handle of the box, and a creepy Jack-in-the-Box pops out. So, too, do two blue watery arms from the pool. They grab the cowardly janitor and drag him down to his doom. Suddenly, Brock's ghost appears. Not only is he back at work, but the janitor is dead, and his daughter's the one what done it. It's very distressing for a father. Megan is stoked to see her father again. She doesn't care that there's a dead man floating at her feet. And he's like,
I don't want you to use the box anymore, Megan. It's dangerous.
But it brings you back.
I want you to throw it away before you get hurt.
Don't you want to see me anymore?
Of course I do, honey, but I can't. Not like this.
Later, Megan is cruising around the seedy part of town on her bike, and she sees the lead bully coming out of a strip club. This could crack the case of her father's murder wide open, but her mom is too wasted to listen to wild tales of bullies and ghosts.
Ghost dads.
Back at Curious Goods, Jack and Ryan dig up some info on the cursed box while Mickey takes a nap. She is visited by one spirit, the ghost of Brock's past.
Megan needs you, Mickey. She's in trouble. She needs you, Mickey.
Meanwhile, Megan has tracked down the stripper and uses the Jack-in-the-Box to drown her in her own sink. That means more time with Ghost Dad, who begs her, in the name of all that is holy, stop murdering people. Because every time she kills, Brock has to hang out with her, and he'd much rather be haunting Mickey's bedroom.
Yeah.
Too bad. Megan has tracked down the lead bully at a car wash, where a quick crank in the music box sees him drowned inside a vehicle. Back at home, Mom is drunk again. Or still drunk. It's unclear if she's ever sobered up since her husband died. She and her daughter get into a shouting match. Uh-oh. Megan starts winding that Jack-in-the-Box. Brock's ghost appears before both of them and begs her not to commit momicide. If Megan could just chill the fuck out, they'll be reunited in the afterlife. Until then, he'll be haunting Mickey's bedroom. This gives Megan a terrible idea. She takes the Jack-in-the-Box to the swim center. If her dad's ghost won't come to her, she'll send her ghost to him. She starts turning the crank, ready to do her own dead man's float. Mickey, Jack, and Ryan bust in and stop the box from popping. Mother and daughter reunite, and everyone lives happily ever after. Except for Megan, who will assuredly go straight to hell for murdering all those people, forever denying her soul from reuniting with her father. The end.
And also, I would say the mother who was watching her daughter try to kill her. So she's going to be sleeping with one eye open for the rest of her life.
Mother did not know that the Jack-in-the-Box was killing people.
Well, guess what? She's going to know after that when all the fucking antique store people tell her the whole story.
I don't know if
also,
they will.
They stop her from using the Jack-in-the-Box at the very end, so she knows there's some sort of connection. Also, I was wondering, do all of those antique people sleep in the same apartment?
They do.
Oh, that's weird. I couldn't really suss out whether we have real proof of the afterlife because it seemed to be the Jack-in-the-Box that was bringing the spirit to the girl. But then he appears to the antique lady, he appears to the mom. Seems like he can kind of come and go at will, and it's rather a dick move for him to then say, like, by the way, you'll never see me again, daughter. Fuck you and your stupid murder lust. I'm out of here.
I mean, every time he shows up, he's looking at dead, drowned bodies, and his daughter is splashing with water. She's like, tee-hee.
Not when he shows up in the bedroom, not when he shows up to the mom on the staircase.
Oh, right, but you can understand the dick move being like, hey, quit bugging me.
Sure, but what I'm saying is she's clearly going through it, and if he has the power to appear to her, and yet he waits for her to murder people, he probably could have saved those people, those innocents, by appearing just a fraction of an instant sooner.
Not innocents, hyperbullies.
What? One of them was a prostitute, and one of them was a janitor.
One of them was a stripper, not a prostitute.
No, because she went home with the murdering guy, and she went home with some other guy.
Yeah, she's free to make her own choices.
She's working a little side action.
Well, maybe she's just getting a little side action. But either way, not a crime. I mean...
Yeah, not a crime. Innocent.
We are getting distracted. The father isn't trying to save lives.
No, but all I'm saying is he could appear to his daughter who needs him and is really grieving and try to give her some kind of closure by saying, like, I love you, I'll always be watching over you or something. Instead, every time he's just like, stop it, I hate you, you'll never see me again. But he could appear to her anytime he wants. It's not contingent on the music box.
It's a weird vibe. The setup is that the cursed music box exchanges one watery murder for the chance to see a spirit, but the fact that his spirit is popping up to other random people at random times...
Yeah, exactly. It breaks that story. Although I'm not saying it was a bad episode, not by any means.
But probably didn't need to be as long as it was, because there are these weird little subplots where...
Quadruple beats.
Megan sees the ghost, runs home, tells her mom, I saw Dad, and she's like, shut up, it was just a dream. Now give me my bourbon. And then Mickey is like, I saw Brock's ghost. He told me Megan was in trouble. And her friends are like, yeah, it was a dream. Shut up. Have some bourbon. And when they initially assume, like, oh, somebody connected to Mickey died, must be a cursed antique. And they're like, but let's not tell her. We don't want to upset her, so we're not going to tell her that there might be a cursed antique involved. There was a lot of... poor communication. I think the real horror in this episode was people not talking to each other.
Yeah, subtext. And I believe, as you did say, like, that girl is fucked for life. She is gonna continue murdering.
Yeah.
Don't do it, Megan. Stop hurting people.
On a side note, the lead bully, A.C. Peterson, was in an episode of So Weird.
Oh, yeah, 100% Canadian show.
And 2 other episodes of Friday the 13th, the series. The young lifeguard was Jill Hennessy, who went on to do a million Law and Order and cop shows and stuff like that. She's in 4 episodes of Friday the 13th, the series. And in the time travel episode we did previously with the vampire, that guy was in a couple episodes. So they were just recycling the same cast. I can't wait until we hit some of those people again. Okay, ratings. Body count for Dead Man's Float.
1.
Body count for Jack in the Box. 4. Scare factor for Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Hi.
Yeah, it was really creepy, but more in a monstery way than a
especially when the
ghost way.
Red ghost bursts out of the pool for the first time. And you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Red ghost looked fucking metal as hell. Scare factor for my episode, pretty low. The music box is a little creepy, but they didn't do a lot with the blue arms coming out and grabbing people. That was a method of murder, but it wasn't like the threat.
If you're in a drought, you're safe as houses.
Gross factor for Are You Afraid of the Dark? I feel like that goopy ghost was hella gross. Gross factor for my episode? Nothing.
That guy is gross. That's why he gets hired.
Yeah, that's why he's the best in the biz.
Casting one ugly fat gross guy
who has a face like a dog's butt, who looks like a real jerk.
That's me, baby. I'm damn proud of it.
What the factor for Tale of Dead Man's Float?
I would say 0. What the factor, eh?
Yeah, Stig had an airtight script. Everything lined up perfectly. What the factor for my episode? Pretty high with the ghost logic.
No rules.
It felt... Well, with ghosts and ghouls, there are no rules.
That's true.
But a vampire's bite only comes at night.
That's true.
And so it really gave me that Are You Afraid of the Dark vibe with this ghost.
Especially it was a kid.
Yeah. Ghost appearing to a kid, popping around, totally random. a delicious serving of What the Factor.
She'd be like slowly winding the music box and like staring daggers at her mom, and then the ghost dad would appear and be like, "Don't do it, honey," and she'd pause for a second and consider, and then start winding the music box again. She did it over and over.
Yeah, that kid was twisted. Totally 80s from my episode, pretty low.
Oh my god. Whoa, miracle. Beep. Fireworks.
Hella 90s for Are You Afraid of the Dark?
090s.
Theme of Dead Man's Float. Mine had more dead men floating.
Yours had a man doing the dead man's float. Mine had a dead man floating.
But I had dead men floating, and I had a drowned sailor themed music box.
Yeah.
I think I edged that one out, which means I edged out the whole damn thing.
Yo ho ho and a bottle of bummer.
Worlds collide. Could Megan have just used chemicals in the pool to see her father's ghost and avoided all this tragedy?
No, because he wasn't a water spirit living in the pool.
He was kind of bound to the pool sometimes.
Nah, he wasn't.
Kaboom.
I never had a chemistry class where I had access to a giant cupboard full of volatile chemicals.
Just think of all the ghosts you could have thwarted or created.
I mean, did you have a chemistry class like that? I don't think we ever mixed anything. We just did math in chemistry class. I don't think we ever actually mixed any chemicals. Like they definitely did in the 70s and stuff because all the shit was there. Like our science lab had the Bunsen burners and all that stuff built into the desks, but we never used it at all. Maybe once in my entire high school career.
We had the Bunsen burners, and there was a skeleton, or at the very least an anatomical chart, and there was stuff in locked cabinets, and we did dissect frogs and worms.
That was biology. I didn't take it because they were dissecting cats and stuff in that class.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's fucked up, and B, they would just keep them in drawers. I don't even think they kept them refrigerated. Like, they must have been preserved with formaldehyde or something. But the stench that would come from the like biology room would waft over to the earth science
room. Those the ghosts. You were smelling
for like weeks and weeks. They would be dissecting these fucking cats. It was so gross factor high.
I distinctly remember dissecting a worm, and I distinctly remember dissecting a cow eyeball.
We dissected a cow eyeball, a worm, and a starfish. And our teacher dissected a shark in front of us, but we didn't have enough sharks, I guess, to go around.
I think we did starfish.
So weird. Like, why is that on the curriculum of every school?
Well, eyeball, nice and big. You can see how everything works, and probably prevented a lot of horsing around and eye injuries. You know, when you saw that vitreous jelly squirt out of an eye, a lot of kids wore their safety goggles after that. And the starfish has radial symmetry. How fucking crazy is that?
I guess, but I don't remember learning anything from cutting it apart. There's a stomach in there somewhere. But like, and we were just dumping all that shit in the garbage, I'm sure. All those body parts and formaldehyde and chemicals.
That poor lifeguard / janitor.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever learned chemistry. We didn't have a dedicated chemistry class.
Yeah. I just did complicated math. The math and chemistry class I could barely do, and then when I switched to physics, I couldn't do it anymore.
When I finally took physics, I was like, yeah, I love physics. I love space. I love sci-fi, and I love all this other stuff. And science is my best subject. I'm over there hacking through cow eyes and starfish. And they're like, and here's this big chart of formulas you have to learn. And I was like, I'm out.
Oh, yes. They float. They float. And when you're down here with me, you